Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are merging nearly a quarter of a century of Baltimore sports now with our incredible local project, BaltimorePositive.com. Interviews this week with former Governor Martin O'Malley, as well as current Congressman John Sarbanes and others. Ted Venetoulis looking at the election. Speaking of elections, we spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania this week, and not just with our own Luke Jones, who was in Owings Mills all week with the Ravens, but the Pittsburgh Steelers cometh to Baltimore on Halloween. Scary indeed. Not as scary as seeing number 16 under center, Charlie Batch, who beat us once or twice, as I sort of remember it. We get together a few times a year and sort of commemorate that and talk about where we are in the old purple and black and gold, Hatfields and McCoys. And, hey, man, I'd meet you halfway to Breezewood, Charlie Batch, and bring you down here this weekend if we could just take these masks off and have normal football. But the football looks normal on Sundays around 1 o'clock every week. And one thing we're no stranger to is the undefeated Ben Roethlisberger-led Pittsburgh Steelers coming to Baltimore for Halloween. Most things aren't normal, dude, but we still hate Pittsburgh. Y'all don't like us much, and the game means a lot, so at least this feels normal, right?
It does. And one thing I'm excited about, to your left there, I think that looks a little black and gold on that mug there. Your left.
Oh, this is Planet Fitness now. Come on, man.
Oh, you sure? Are you sure?
Listen to me. Listen, we have Towson University here. We have UMBC, and they both wear black and gold. So
Okay.
I like black and gold stuff. Now, my high school was Kelly Green and gold, so it's Packers people when they give me that hard time. But, yes, Planet Fitness safely distancing. My man Teddy Atlas will come on next week. So, yeah, you know, we allow black and gold here once a week.
All I saw was the P there. And I'm like, oh, really? That's what we're doing? We're converting you finally.
It doesn't say CB. It says Planet Fitness.
You know I have to mess with you.
Well, you know, the Steelers are better than maybe advertised or we thought or anybody thought. I mean, not that the Steelers can sneak up on you or Roethlisberger, but, I mean, come on, man. You shared a quarterback room with that guy. He's a witch like Brady, and they're all trying to outdo each other. Breeze, all these old guys trying to outdo each other. Ben has really found whatever the fountain of multiple receivers in his offense is, right?
He really is. And right now he's playing the best ball of his career. I mean, especially as it relates to him getting rid of the football. And right now, this is probably, I mean, all the years that I've watched him, he's releasing the football under 2.2 seconds. So so that's not allowing the sacks. And of course, last week, they played against the Titans. He wasn't sacked at all. So that is, encouragement for Steelers Nation.
Well, let's talk about the start they got off to, because we were supposed to play you. You were supposed to play us, and then the Titans and the COVID, and we get a week off, and we get you after the bye. All of this happens, but I find myself on the couch, right? And I'm watching the game, and I'm like, they're better than I thought they were. And the Devin Bush injury, and I know how good the front is there and all of that. And I think a lot of the Titans, they eliminated us recently. So we do. But I was sort of, whoa, we're going to play them next week? Well, Tomlin's got them working up there. And give me the differences as I watch Le'Veon Bell run around in a Chiefs helmet and Antonio Brown about to go down to Tampa Bay and the Fountain of Brady and do all that down there with Gronkowski. But for the players that have been lost there, this organization is just top of the pops as far as replacing players. Tell us about this new core of wide receivers.
Yeah, and you have to give a big shout out to Kevin Colbert, the general manager here in Pittsburgh. He knows how to find receivers in the draft. There was just something they haven't drafted a first rounder since 2006 with Santonio Holmes, but they have found gems when you're talking about the Mike Wallaces, the Emmanuel Sanders, Antonio Browns, and here we are now with Chase Claypool, James Washington, Juju Smith-Schuster. These guys are playing well, and they're playing with a lot of confidence. But that starts not only with Mike Tomlin, but it starts with the new coach. They have a new coach in the receiving room, Ike Hilliard, a guy who played the position, so that comes with instant credibility. So when he's now sharing ideas of what he's expecting from his receivers, it's not like he's asking them to do something he's never done. So when he can throw that film on and say, look, here's how I want you to run a route, and I expect you to do it this way. And these guys are doing it in a big way.
Well, I mean, you talk about credibility with coaches, and I think there's something that just comes with a Tomlin program or a Harbaugh program right now that Cleveland's trying to figure that out, Cincinnati, other places trying to figure out that leadership part that sort of comes with the bricks in the building, and whether it's passed down from a I don't know, a bus to wherever Connor is and everybody in between. And, going back to Ben Roethlisberger being the bridge to all of this, where the Ray Lewises and the Terrell Suggs and the Ed Reeds did the battle. There's something about just putting a helmet on and falling into that program there that if you sort of abide, right, and you're in that building, they know what they're doing to get you ready to play football on Sunday.
Absolutely. And the names have changed, like you just mentioned, but everybody knows the rivalry because a lot of people grew up on this rivalry. So from an organizational standpoint, a city standpoint, we hate you all hate us, especially during these 2 games a year. So I think it's just something that everybody knows and what to expect. But when these players that are coming in here, they're ready to go out here and actually perform and be part of this particular rivalry, and hopefully their name continues to be mentioned. But it's really good to see. I'm just glad both teams are sitting here, but we all know that there's going to be this clash here, and typically who wins this game or both of these games will typically go on and win the division.
It's one thing for me to give Tomlin a hard time, but you're like a true son of Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? Like you get it all honest and local through all of this. Give me a little look at COVID in your area. I mean, we talk so much about your foundation and important things, and I know you and I have talked about Kaepernick. We've talked at length here about all the issues in the league with race and the virus and politics, and this is a very, very, very important week, not just because of the football game.
It is. And I think when you look back and you mention COVID and all of these type of things, it's different. Nobody knows what to expect. You really just have to be prepared for the unexpected. It's different from the media perspective. We can't go in and watch practice during the course of a week. So you're kind of not being able to kind of get your tidbits, and you're depending on other people to give you that who are actually in the facility. So from that perspective, it's different. The players is different. I don't get a chance to be around the players and talk to them as much as you would like to during the course of a week. So it's different all around. But I think
that's the weird part, right? Like football people not being around football people, you're as disconnected as just because you're Charlie Batch, you're not walking in there high-fiving Ben Roethlisberger. So I think for all of us who've ever done this, there's nothing normal about any. They're letting a handful of fans in this week. I told the people, don't get too excited. It's not a whole lot of fun to go down and watch football in an empty stadium. It's almost a little morose.
It is, and it's different, and it's comparable at Heinz Field. Everybody knows that Renegades plays in the fourth quarter. The fans get excited. The players, they feed off of that energy. They stop playing it.
By the way, I had JY from Sticks on this week to explain all that. So you can find that at Baltimore Play. He went through the whole story about how that happened up there.
Absolutely. And that's been a trend over the last 15 years, it maybe longer. But the thing for me, even going into Baltimore, the thing that I hated the most is the fact that hearing that cha-ching, cha-ching, when the Ravens make a first down and the fans are all giving that first down mark, you're just like, well, how annoying is that? But again, the players feed off of that energy. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think 4,400 that are going to be in the stadium that day. We're going to see if the players are able to feed off of that energy that they provide.
Don't lie to me. You'd have been in the Hall of Fame if you could have played in empty, silent stadiums, right, where you could hear everything. I mean, the advantage for a quarterback on the road, for Mahomes to come in here and not have my wife, reaching over the upper deck. By the way, she screamed things at you. I know she did that day, especially here. But for a quarterback, I would only liken it to maybe being a golfer or something, right, where, like, you can quiet your mind in a way that crowds in the National Football League did not allow you when you got under center.
And it's different because those pass rushers, because they know that those offensive tackles will be getting off a split second slower, they're watching film and they're trying to figure out, time out the center when he lifts his head up on a silent count, when that ball is going to be snapped. So that's an advantage for the defense. But when you don't have it with the crowd and you're actually able to now, say your cadence normally, the advantage now goes to the offense versus the defense. So that's one of the biggest deals. And that's why you hear quarterbacks say how tough it is to go into an opposing stadium, especially down in Baltimore, 70,000 fans. That is something to be reckoned with when you have to not only face the defense, but you're now facing that 12th man, which is the fans in the stands.
Can't have Charlie Batch mention the word tough here this week as far as Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Not talking about James Conner. My wife's a two-time survivor of leukemia, and, his battle was right around the same time. And I remember her being bald, watching TV, seeing this kid from Pitt, local kid. I mean, Tomlin and I are close. He was in the same building. We had actually had a conversation about it during the time. Then next thing you know, this kid's playing at an incredible level, right? That's a true Pittsburgh story going on, right? And we're in the middle of it because you don't know where it's going to end. It might end with a championship. We don't hope so here, but I know you do there.
Absolutely. And I think when you look at just for James Conner's story, everybody is familiar with that. But there were a lot of uncertainties here in Pittsburgh because they were unsure whether or not Conner was going to play. So some people thought he was going to opt out based off his condition, but he was willing to say, look, I'm okay and I'm a play. So that eased the tension a lot up here in Pittsburgh. So now he's having he started off, he's having a really good season thus far. And of course, he's in a contract year. So there's a lot for him to prove from that perspective. But he's the veteran guy, the leader in that particular running group. But when you add the elements now of the young players of Benny Snell, of course, there's Jalen Samuels here. And of course, you are familiar being down there in Maryland with Anthony McFarland Jr. He hasn't yet to really get on the field consistently, all because of what James Conner's bringing to the table.
Charlie Batch is here and visiting from Pittsburgh. The Steelers and the Ravens getting together, as they do a couple times a year. Usually Charlie stops by at the Super Bowl. I mean, I guess I've written off Radio Row, dude. I just feel like there's no way you're going to come sit next to me and we're all going to meet in Tampa. I mean, the fans part of this, all of this has been just a little bit different. But the one thing that's been sort of normal has been, and I've been to the road games where I've sat on the roof in Houston alone, down in D.C., Philadelphia had a handful of fans. But the one thing that's been normal is just the game itself and how well the game's been played, the level we're seeing Tom Brady play it in Tampa right now, what we saw the other night from Kyler Murray and from Russell Wilson, and just your game last week. I mean, there have just been great games, good team, bad teams too. They got a couple of those up in New York, and we hope to see one of those in a couple of weeks too. But for all of the craziness going on in our society, 1 o'clock on Sunday, if you put the TV on and that's the way you consume the game, and I know it's been different for you and me over much of our adulthood and lifetime, either at games, you're in huddles, I'm in press boxes and locker rooms, but for most fans who put the game on TV and bet a game or love a team or have a tailgate or have a man cave, and you have a wonderful one there, Charlie, it's been the one sort of normal thing that's been going on here is I can count on a football game this weekend.
Yeah, when you're watching it on TV, it's football as usual. The only time you really notice it is when they go to a replay and give you kind of that all 22 replay, and then you scan the fans and you realize there's nothing in there. But I thought the NFL did a phenomenal job of, trying to pump the crowd noise in. I think we're seeing really good football without training camp or without preseason games. But everybody expected this to start out slow. But, man, and the scoring's up. People's excited. People are watching. And it's one of those things that you have to give hats off to the NFL for putting it in the environment that way. But also all the employees, staff, coaches, everybody that's all part of it doing their part to make sure that this virus doesn't spread.
Back at the turn of the century in your era, they didn't sign Yannick Ngakoue in week 8, and there weren't all pro and Pro Bowl and sometimes Hall of Fame players floating around changing helmets like Le'Veon Bell last week or Antonio Brown or Des Bryant. And I'm just naming a couple, right? I mean, around the league, if you're a player in this league or you're a fan of this league, last year, Marcus Peters becomes available to the Ravens. We're just seeing players move around in season in a way that wasn't really possible back when you wore a Lions helmet, right?
Yeah, it wasn't. And a lot of people, of course, they didn't want to absorb contracts, so they were afraid to trade. They waited for players to get cut and then try to get them for the minimum. So you saw a lot of that. But like you mentioned, there are a lot of trades. And unfortunately, they're happening because of injuries at some point because of the position. So, a lot of people put it into it, well, maybe lack of no preseason was causing these injuries. No, injuries are always a part of the game. It's unfortunate that the stars are the ones that bring the attention. But if you're watching an NFL game, there is a 100% chance that somebody will be injured in the game that you're watching. That's just the state of it. So players understand that there are injuries that are part of this game. Hopefully it's not as severe.
So I think I told you this when I saw you at the Super Bowl. My wife and I kind of famously sit around and hate on the Steelers most Decembers because we need you to lose, right? And there was some point last year where, we're 12-2, 13, winning by 30 points, whatever it was. And Roethlisberger was like on the sidelines, holding a clipboard, all banged up and injured, all, 40 days of shag going on. Looks like he's in the third round of the Stanley Cup. And it looks like he's got about 15 or 20 extra, maybe a little bit too much beef last week. And, not skipping a salad bar. My wife's like, man, he looks fat and old. And I'm like, don't say that about him in December. He's going to come back here and haunt us. And this is even before the plague. Give me, and I know I've asked you this before, and I think you sat next to me, maybe answered, but don't give me the stock answer because you know Ben. You know Ben, you know him well. All the controversies in the motorcycles in Georgia and this and Super Bowls and winning games and losing games. And is he going to play and is he not? And how hurt is he? And give me something about him that makes him tick that our fans would understand better other than just respecting him, and the fact that he's coming in here again and he's not fat and old and all that. Watching him again 5 days ago, that's what I saw. But, you really know him and have been through highs and lows and been on his side and on the other side as well. Give me something about Ben that I don't know about him.
Well, I think when you look at this, it's great to see him back on the field this year, but just talking to him almost a year and 13 months ago when the injury occurred for him, he was unsure whether he was going to come back because the type of injury that he had never been done before, specifically on a quarterback. So for him to go through that, there was a camera following him, eventually was on YouTube, and there was serious conversation between him and his wife on whether he was going to come back. And that was genuine conversation because he was unsure. But as the rehab went along and he came back, and at this point, it's great to see him back. But he's just wired different. He wants to win championships, something he's done early in his career. And for him to now be 12 years removed from winning a Super Bowl in 2008, he wants to get back there. Yes, we were there in 2010. We lost to the Packers, but he wants to ultimately get back there. So I think the one thing that really is going to light his fire, specifically this week, and Mike Tomlin said this in the offseason, that was meant a lot up here because people heard it, but maybe not outside of Pittsburgh. But Mike Tomlin says maybe he's not the best quarterback in the league. And everybody was just like, what do you mean? And he's saying it because he's saying we don't have a Heisman Trophy winner on our team. So by him saying that, it was trying to light a fire underneath him to say, people are writing you off, Ben. What are you going to do? And he responded in a big way this year. So that's why I say, for me, it's great to see him back because he's on the latter stages of his career. Maybe he's able to get this to 19, 20 years, but at 17 years, his ultimate goal was to win Super Bowls, and he's trying to bring that third one to Pittsburgh.
Does this surprise you? Your body has to let you come back from something like that. That's you can want all you want, but then you have to go out and actually do it. And, it's been said and it'll be said all week, he can't throw the ball down the field like he once did.
Yeah, and people are saying that, and it's going to be interesting to see how he responds. And because he hasn't thrown a lot of passes down the field, Baltimore is going to challenge that this week. So that's going to be something. Is he going to pay attention to, or Baltimore is going to dare him to beat him deep? So it's going to be something that I pay attention to. But it's just one of those things that when you look at where Ben is at right now in his career and the defense that they have, I think this is the best position that he's been in a long time. Last year, he missed it season with the injury. Now he's able to come back. The arm seems fresher. And now there's hope that he's able to continue on and maybe play 20, 21 years like Tom Brady is down in Tampa.
Charlie, you got anything on Lamar? I would call it sophomore this or that. Obviously there's been an injury involved. He's not running into linebackers, not running as much, which has changed sort of the dynamic of the offense, the sort of fold-up that happened against the Eagles and sort of the scare. I thought that was kind of good. And I've said that for 2 weeks, that they'll look back on a scare because you're not going to win games 45-6 every week and laugh and take your chin strap off in the third quarter and do all that. The challenge comes when a team does come back and the gourd bull of Carson Wentz comes running back a couple of times and a 3-and-out. The next thing you know, a 2-point conversion, you're playing for overtime in Philadelphia in a game you thought you had won. There are lessons to be learned for young players everywhere. Lamar's had that kind of success that you wanted. Every quarterback wanted when they first got in the league. And then there's you're really, really good, kid. Well, let's see what we have. And Mahomes is dealing with that. Russell Wilson's still dealing with that. And he's 30, right? That's what's going to happen when you're special. And in the case of Lamar, he's going to have to answer to this by throwing the ball better than he's thrown it lately.
And when you look at, I think all that comes because of what he's done in his young career. I mean, he set the bar so high. Everybody expects that every single week. Typically over time, young quarterbacks, they struggle a couple games early in the season, and then by mid-season, end of the year, you're like, oh, okay, this guy can play. But he did it at such a young age. So now when he's doing that and maximizing, again, I'm sure there's conversation with the coaches that are saying, hey, yes, we want you to run because you have a unique ability, but also minimize some of those hits, and that could sustain over the long haul. So I don't know if that's kind of playing in his mind a little bit, but it just seems like you mentioned, something is just a little off. I haven't studied him enough just to try to figure out what that is.
Well, hey, it's fun getting together with you talking football. I wonder for long stretches whether we'd have a season, whether there would be Steelers and Ravens and Steelers and all of this stuff. And hopefully as we get here to the halfway point, we're all staying safe, doing the right thing. I don't know, you'll see me up there on Thanksgiving eating Mr. Rooney's cookies. I'm not sure, I don't know if they're going to let people in or not. Who knows how we're going to vote. By the way, you have a degree in criminal justice, do you not?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any thoughts on, social justice in our country, a little election going on, your state, anything? This is quite a divided time right now, everywhere. And even in Philadelphia last week, I talked to a friend of mine who works for the Eagles and has worked there a long time, who even said to me, football feels like it's fifth right now, as far as like what's really important in Pittsburgh and Baltimore.
Yeah, and over the years, everybody, they didn't want politics into sports and sports into politics, and now it's all merging. And now you see athletes voicing their opinions, and I love to see that. But at the same time, we all have that right to vote. And when you look at what's going on in this country and what you believe in, right, wrong, or indifferent, you have an opportunity to make change. So what I like about this situation, of course, I don't like everything that was going on in this country, but what I do like, you have our young people out there that are now trying to gather more information. What's important? Encouraging them to vote. Understand what you're voting, what's going on in your local community, government, nationally. I think it's one of those things that now people are paying attention. And that's all we're, nobody's saying vote for this person, vote for that person. Vote. Either way, just make sure you vote. And I think that's the part that I get excited about, that everybody is educating themselves during this time.
And we'll get into, waiting 11 hours to vote. We'll get into that next time. But that's a real problem. I hope everybody gets out and votes. I know we're talking to Pennsylvania and Maryland and everyone else here this week, and we got football on our minds as well. Charlie, it's always great to catch up with you. What's the foundation doing, man? I know you're socially distanced, but you're going to be doing stuff with kids in the holidays because that's what you do, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is something that we're excited about up here in Pittsburgh. Because of COVID, we had to pivot a little bit with comfort baskets and making sure that we have the essentials for families during the earlier parts, March, April, May, and June. And now as we sit back, of course, now we're working on making sure we're helping with that digital divide, making sure that families have the internet at home, making sure they have equipment to be able to do their homework now that everybody's working virtually. So we're working with Comcast, making sure that we're providing internet within the homes, but also if those homes don't have internet at this point, they can come to our building and physically do their homework. So it's something that is a challenge for us, but we're excited to take on that challenge under these trying times. But also with our foundation, we actually are busting out of the seams. Literally, we're taking every inch of space. So we're expanding. And right now during this time, we're actually adding 27,000 square feet to our existing building. We're talking about classroom activity rooms. We're talking about STEAM labs to be able to now provide kids with more opportunities. And in the Pittsburgh area, we service 3,800 kids annually. And now with this expansion, we will be able to take on over 5,000 kids annually. So we're excited this time of year about this. So, with COVID, it delayed us 52 days with the construction, but we are now on schedule to be ready to go and open April of 21. So whenever that happens, I'm going to shoot you over an invite. And hopefully you make it up here to Pittsburgh.
Well, you know what? I should. I mean, I remember when Pittsburgh just used to export indigestion. Now you guys have robotics and like all of these incredible programs up there for it's really become an education mecca for the East Coast. And I hear about it from where I am that a lot of people I know send their kids to schools in Pittsburgh.
They do. And it really, there was a whole transformation. It was a steel mill town. That's how I grew up with this. But they really made it a point over the last 15 years to become another tech hub here on the East Coast. Carnegie Mellon, University of Pittsburgh, it's not uncommon to see a driverless car next to you. you see all the, the antennas and all that beside it. You look over and you're like, there's nobody in the
Dude,
car.
it's tough enough waking up in Pittsburgh. I can't wake up next to Pittsburgh, nobody driving a car.
It's unbelievable. But we're used to that. So when you tell that story to somebody on the outside, they're like, what do you mean there's a driverless car next to you? Like, that's what they're doing. And that's why you're now seeing the Facebooks, the Googles, Uber. Uber's in here. And then all these other industries that are now moving into Pittsburgh. It's just really exciting to see. And that's why literally, if you are an engineer, they are looking for you, and they are pulling people out of the university space, offering them jobs, 6-figure jobs as a junior if you're capable in that industry.
All right, I'm quitting Baltimore life, coming to Pittsburgh, having Thanksgiving with Charlie. How about that?
Let's do it. You're always
There's no
invited.
chance of that happening. You know that's I'm
always invited. When I get that, trust me, I'm gonna take a picture and I'm gonna tweet it out immediately.
What kind of pie you doing? You doing pumpkin, sweet potato, apple, mincemeat? What are you doing at the batch?
Typically a sweet potato pie. I mean, that's what that is. But typically for Thanksgiving, we generally have over 100 people that are at the house. Not at the same time, but they're coming in throughout the day. But this year I'm
going to come a year when I don't have to wear a mask. How about that?
That's exactly. I was just about to say that this year we can't do that, so it's going to be very intimate this year. But 2021. You're coming to Pittsburgh.
All right. I see stuffing in the agenda. He is Charlie Batch, former quarterback, all things Batch Foundation. You can find them out on the web. I actually, I pulled this thing up here a minute ago. I want to show your website here because I didn't get a chance to do that because it's such a great cartoon here. You look like, I don't know, like Schneider in Fixing the House there. And now you're the professor down here. Be your hero to kids. So anybody wants to find anything about what Charlie's doing, the best of the batch, it's at batchfoundation.org. And we'll get together again in a couple weeks, play some more football here. And the way these teams are headed, it's going to be a hell of a tournament in January, too. AFC's loaded, right?
Yes, it is. I mean, you're looking at 2 of the top 3 teams that'll be playing this week in Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Everybody expects that. And, of course, everybody looking at the Chiefs on the other side. But either way, 2 of these 3 teams will be in that AFC Championship game.
Stay safe during the holidays. Always appreciate our visits with you, Charlie. Be well, all right?
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Charlie Batch, 16, the way to find him, and the batchfoundation.org, doing great things with Yins and that up in the Berg. And they're coming down here. We're going up there. It's a good month of football. Only normal thing we got going on around here, BaltimorePositive.com. Great conversations all around this week, including I talked to JY from Styx about how Renegade became the Pittsburgh song. You'll want to go hear that. You can find that under the Arts and the Music Classic. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. They got a lot of good things in Pittsburgh. They don't have to Harka ice cream. We're going to be delivering this. I'm going to be mixing up the eggnog batch, not the Charlie batch, the eggnog batch of the Taharka ice cream a little later on in the month. You'll want to check that out. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports and Baltimore positive.